Well, welcome everybody to the Coalition for Marriage YouTube channel. If you're joining us for the first time, especially warm welcome to you, of course. Please click that subscribe button so you get notified of all future videos. And by all means, share these videos with your friends and your family so more people can see and hear what's going on. We have people of all sorts of different backgrounds, including people from all sorts of different political parties. We don't take a stance politically, but having seen what's happened in the Scottish elections recently, we thought we would interview somebody from the Scottish Family Party to find out how they did, what they stand for, and what their thinking is around the issue of family and marriage. So it's a privilege to welcome onto the channel today their leader, Richard Lucas. So Richard, can I ask you to say hi to our viewers?
Hello, it's good to be here.
Wonderful to talk to you, Richard. I wonder if you could tell us who formed the Scottish Family Party. Was it you? What's the background to it? Why was it formed? Why is it necessary, do you think?
Well, the idea of a party like the Scottish Family Party in Scotland had been floating around with various people for a few years, and I'd been aware of that and involved with that. But eventually it got to the stage where I thought someone needs to take the initiative and make this happen. You know, the need is glaring. So I felt that that was my calling, if you like, was to step into that role and get the ball rolling. There were people around me from the beginning. There were other people who shared the vision. And the driving force behind it was really frustration that there were a lot of perfectly sensible, reasonable views held by a large section of the population that were completely unrepresented in Scottish politics and generally in the Scottish media.
So what do you stand for? What's your elevator pitch, if you like, for the Scottish Family Party?
Our brief summary after we'll say we're pro-family, pro-marriage, pro-life. So pro-family in terms of recognizing the fundamental importance of family life to a healthy society, to adults and particularly to children. And then following on from that, recognizing the crucial role of marriage in producing these healthy, stable families. For governments, that should be such an obvious avenue to be exploring in terms of solving the problems that they are trying to solve, and yet it's completely absent from the debate.
What would you call family? Because there might be a lot of people around these days who would say, well, families take many, many different forms. And indeed, you know, there was a debate in the Lords only recently where marriage was mentioned as just one form of many different family types, which should be accepted and celebrated these days. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, that's a question we get asked quite a lot. What's your definition of family? As a political party, we're not in the business of trying to define words. So we're not saying family is this or isn't this. We believe that the ideal structure is a mum and a dad bringing up their own kids. And we want to maximize the number of children who are brought up within that context for the sake of their well-being. So a lot of our policies, they would help any form of family, any households bringing up children would benefit from some of our policies. On the other hand, we're also geared towards, let's say, trying to maximize traditional family within society.
And what would you say to the critics who might say, well, basically that's just subjective, old-fashioned nonsense and society's moved on and you can get perfectly good families that aren't following the old-fashioned misogynistic structure?
I think the key word there is subjective, because the evidence for marriage and traditional family life is anything but subjective. I mean, it's objective and there's mountains of it. In terms of clarity of the facts of the matter, I think that's crystal clear. That it is what's best for adults, best for wider society, and best for children. People's hostility towards it is quite curious, because I feel a lot of commentators and politicians in this realm, even when they're presented with the facts about the benefits of marriage and traditional family structure, it's as though they've got a higher principle that stops them accepting it. And the higher principle is that adults should be absolutely free to do whatever they like and make whatever decisions they like in terms of relationships and having children. And it's not just that they should be free to make their own choices, that it's somehow immoral to offer any guidance or try and promote any sort of cultural values in this regard. And that higher principle overwhelms their concern for the well-being of society, in particular children.
And it does sometimes feel as if governments are trying to do everything to promote all sorts of activity except what you might call the conventional family structure.
Yeah.
Which from an evidence base seems to be the best outcome for kids and adults, as you've mentioned.
Yeah. But in Scotland, you see that particularly acutely in the education system, where right from nursery, the message presented is all family forms are equally valid. Families come in all shapes and sizes, any number of men and women, including, for example, 2 men and 2 women. And yeah, you have to celebrate them all. They're diverse. They're all wonderful, special, and great. And it's relativizing family forms, relativizing that natural family alongside the others. Then as soon as they're in primary school, right from the 5 to 8-year-olds, they're talking about artificial reproductive technologies. So they're even relativizing how children come into being, let alone the family structure. And it's obvious that the message is to create in the new generations that really there's no such thing as a norm or an ideal. It's just any adult or adults in any combination can have children when they want to. That's all fine. Because I mean, the correlations between family breakdown, fatherlessness, etc., to negative outcomes for children. I mean, virtually anything you can measure, family structure has a massive, often the overwhelming effect on it. And yet within the political world, they will look at any possible cause for these things apart from the glaringly obvious one, rather than family stability.
So why, in that case, if the evidence is so clear, Richard, that a conventional family structure, growing up with your mum and dad, brings the absolute best outcomes for the kids? Of course, there's going to be exceptions both ways, but on a population basis, growing up with your mum and dad is the best outcome for kids and indeed for the adults involved in a conventional married family. Why aren't the government supporting and promoting that, do you think?
I think they have an ideological commitment in many cases that you cannot advise or even do anything to try and influence the culture in which people make their personal decisions. Another very strong factor, maybe the strongest factor, is that people see it as criticism. So if you state that you're promoting marriage because you think if more people got married, that would create more stable families, would be a benefit to the whole of society, what people hear is that you're criticizing single parents, or you're criticizing people who've chosen not to get married. And I think it's reached the critical mass. There are so many people who have made decisions contrary to the usual understanding of marriage that now politicians are terrified of upsetting that section of the electorate because they think it would be suicidal for them at the ballot box. So they daren't go there. So whereas what we're saying, we're trying to create a better future for future generations. Through the election campaign, it just made me realize just how far removed from people's thinking the idea of promoting marriage is. We really are starting from square one. The mainstream of politics is influenced more by people who've already made contrary decisions rather than the well-being of future generations.
So what would you say to those people who might argue, well, actually, the government should have nothing to do with family either way? It should stay out of it.
Governments are forever trying to influence people's decisions and behaviors. And yet when it comes to marriage, which really is maybe the most fundamental culture change that could benefit our society, they won't touch it.
So can I ask, how did you do in the recent elections? Was it as well as you thought, worse than you thought?
I would say about middling. We got about 17,000 people at least voted for the Scottish Family Party in the election, which we feel is a good start, and we'll build on that and grow and grow. I say we're in this for the long term. And our mission is to get representatives elected. And
I've followed you a little bit and looked around at stuff you've put on YouTube, etc. You get a lot of hate, Richard, an awful lot of hate. And I wonder if you could perhaps tell us a little bit about what that's like and how that feels and living in that environment.
Yeah, the election campaign was quite an eye-opener because we had a leaflet delivered to every house in Scotland. It had a pro-marriage message, but just the absolute deluge of hate mail through every possible communication channel. It was unbelievable. Never seen anything like it. But I'm pretty thick-skinned with that. And it did get unpleasant to have to spend so much time every day dealing with it, trying to find within the hate mail the things you do actually need to deal with and the supportive comments. And the normal run of things with the family party, we get our fair share of opposition. Every time we try and organize an event, if we announce the venue, people will try and get the venue to cancel us. Probably more than half of the time they're successful. So when we plan events, we have to keep the venue secret so that people don't cancel it, which is a real pain.
Well, that's really tough, and hats off to you, Richard. Many people in the same position up and down the country. Some interesting court cases going before the English and Welsh courts at the minute on similar type issues. What advice would you give to individuals, Richard, who feel the same way about these issues and want to speak up, but are a bit scared about what might happen if they do?
It's a real problem in an open democratic society when you've got a substantial portion of the population who are afraid to speak what they believe in the political sphere. So what's my advice to people? My advice to people is always speak out, be true to your values, and that there might be difficult times ahead, but there's difficult times ahead in other ways if you get into the habit of not speaking what you believe. But when people, they do decide, look, at this point in my life, I really aren't in a position to speak publicly, then I would say, well, surely at the very least, you need to get right behind those people who are and support them in every way that you possibly can.
And there are plenty of things people can do, aren't there? They can be encouraged to write to their MSPs or their MPs regularly. They can be encouraged to write to newspapers, even, dare I say, join political parties and turn up at local associations.
Yeah.
You don't have to stand to be an MSP, but you can just get involved in the process and maybe tip the balance that way.
The power in a democracy is on election day. That's really where power is expressed, and that's where change is going to come. We're trying to put people into the parliament who are going to represent our opinions.
So what does the future hold for you? What are you kind of working on now? You've just had one election.
A lot of new support, so we're trying to solidify that. We've just started preparations for the council elections next year, so we'll concentrate on building up our local structure, our local branches, just trying to take the opportunities that come up. Then there's the UK general election. My dream for that is that we would have a candidate in every constituency in Scotland. Then the year after that, it's Scottish elections again, and let's see where we get then.
And you've got several videos on your channel, which we'll put a link to if people want to go and see your discussions on the importance of marriage. People can go and look at that as they want to. Well, it sounds like you're going from strength to strength.
Yes, building up very nicely. Yep.
Yeah, and it's very good to talk to you. Very grateful for the stand you're taking for Real Family and for sticking up for the evidence base and what it means in real life, and for putting up with what you put up with. And so for coming and talking to us all today, can I thank you very much, Richard?
No, absolute pleasure. Yeah, and thanks for your work as well. We really appreciate that, and we follow your output avidly.
Thank you very much for watching. Can I let you know that we do have more videos on our channel? If you'd like to get regular newsletters from us, then please hop across to our website, c4m.org.uk. Click that join button. It's free, and we'd love to stay in touch.